Hello humans, Master Flex here, bring you the low quality content you deserve, and today I'm going to be doing some perfectly normal, nothing out of the ordinary Traptrix combos. Now yesterday, we got 3 new cards announced. One of them is literally Trap In, where you trade a trap in your hand for 2 draws. But the ones I was more curious about for Traptrix itself was the new monster, which is right here, Traptrix Puddle, and then a field spell that it directly searches Traptrix Orchard. Now, I'm going to be totally honest, I wasn't sure how I felt about both of these cards. Let's go ahead. I'll start off by normal summoning it and searching the field spell so I could explain them a little better. So, Puddle is actually a really good monster regardless of its ability to search the field spell. Because whenever it's special summoned, like from Sarah, you can target a special summon monster your opponent controls, banish it, but during their next standby, they can special summon any banished monster. So it's basically a longer term Farfa, which is actually really good, especially with Sarah, because it turns 1 trap into 2 by its own effect, by getting a monster, which a lot of the times, when you were playing Traptrix, you would just summon out a Myrmelio, not even trying to pop anything, but just so you had a way to trigger Sarah. Now you can proactively get something out that triggers Sarah, while also being a real effect to use on their turn. So this is good regardless of its normal summon effect. Orchard is actually the one I was a little more iffy on, because I'm gonna say this right now, I would not be iffy if there was a Link 1 that searches the field spell, but that's not the case. It's this normal summon specifically that searches it, and this is where it gets a little awkward, because you pretty much only get access to this if you don't draw it by using this as your normal summon, so you can't go out of your way to search this with like a Mantis and then normal summon unless you already have Orchard, and if that's the case, Mantis is going to search something much more relevant. So I was really iffy on Orchard at all, but then I realized it actually doesn't matter. Because of the new rank 4, it will always give you a new normal summon to get. So for this quick combo, all you need is the new Puddle and any 1-card rank 4, Parallel Exceed or Shade Brigadine. Shade Brigadine is obviously better, but let's go for the lesser one. So we normal summon Puddle, search the field spell. Now we are going to link into Sarah, and Parallel Exceed will special summon itself, and another copy from the deck as level 4 monsters. Then we'll overlay these 2 level 4s into Citrus. And Citrus has the effect we can detach a material to search any Traptrix monster in the game. And we will search Mantis. Now this is when I realized, okay, Orchard is actually better than I thought. It's just, it is a 2-card combo, 2 to 3 card combo card, which is actually fine because that's what Traptrix is already. So there's not really much of a downside to just kind of going along with that theme. But let's continue. We will normal summon Mantis as our additional normal summon. Mantis will trigger, and we are going to search, surprisingly, not the new extender, but the old Vesiculo. And then Sarah could have triggered on Citrus or Mantis, but we will set a trap hole. Now, we are going to link these 2 plants, yep, they're plants, into Aromaseraphy Jasmine. Like I said, very normal Traptrix combo. Now we are going to summon Vesiculo by sending away this trap hole we set. Now we are going to overlay these 2 level 4s into Rika Queen Strenna. Now, here's something very interesting about what I've been doing. If you were to go in the new extender's lock, however the hell you pronounce that, you actually, this entire combo respects that restriction. So let's continue on. We are going to detach Verstrina to target a plant in our graveyard. Now, because we actually had 2 at the time of activation, both Citrus and Sarah, we can go ahead and detach the Vesiculo and add it back on the follow-up. Now, here's something interesting and why I said Shade Brigandine is better, because these cards would be Shade Brigandine and a Traptrix from your deck, and if that's the case, you would summon Dionea and recycle that instead because it's a better follow-up than Vesiculo is. But regardless of that, we added this back, and now we are going to activate Jasmine, tribute Strina, and we are going to summon out a Traptrix monster I thought would never be good, of course, until this structure deck. Now, Strina will trigger. When it's tributed, you can special summon a rank 5 or higher plant XC from your extra deck and attach it as a material. Now, this one says if a monster is tributed, you can attach a material to target a monster in either graveyard and special summon it, and it becomes a plant. So what we're going to do is we're going to trigger whatever that's pronounced. These names are kind of all over the place. And we will get a trap hole from our graveyard and a trap hole from our deck. And it's just which ones you think are better. And then the whatever this is, Kanzashi will trigger to summon out any Traptrix monster. And we will choose, I guess, any of them. That works. Next, we are going to use the final effect of Orchard. You can banish a monster you control to special summon a Traptrix from your hand or graveyard. And we will summon Citrus, and I'll explain why later. And then we can link away this into Sarah. And then one final thing you can do is, right now you could be totally fine with this setup, but you can also go into Carlulio. God, these names are a miserable pronunciation thing. I wish there was like normal words instead of like their genus used to describe these, because man, it's so miserable trying to pronounce this when you have the reading level of like a 4th grader. It's miserable. But you can keep the Jasmine here, and it protects these 2 monsters from being ran over if you like use a Gravedigger's Trap Hole. But you can also go into this, and this one says anytime a trap hole would be used, instead of sending it to the grave, it gets set back. And that's when you can also revive this. But this is the card I wanted to mention. There's actually a lot of value in keeping it up. It's because not only does it search a Traptrix, but on the opponent's turn, if they use an effect like Foolish Burial or anything that sends to the graveyard or banished, I think at all, yeah. If anything is sent away, you can attach one of them as a material, and that's a way to prevent a floating effect. Like, let's say they Rhino Hearts send whatever, you can just attach whatever they sent, and they don't get diffusion summoned. So there's actually a lot of really good reason to keep this card up, even if it has 0 materials. Not to mention, it can reattach things that are hit with like a trap hole as well. So this card is actually just very, very, very good, especially to keep up. And Orchard allows any of your plants or insects to not be destroyed by battle once a turn. So the concern of battle is not that heavy, especially if they just want to get a threat out of the way, because they're dealing with trap holes and they're dealing with all this. There's just a lot to deal with right here, because let's go into our opponent's turn and see what happens. So I've already explained this is a disruption if they try to put stuff in the grave. Then when they go to make a play, you can time space trap hole like a random thing, and then afterwards, let's say there's a random trap hole. Afterwards, Sarah can trigger to summon Puddle out of the deck, and Puddle can banish another thing. And when you do so, Sarah triggers again to get another trap on the following turn. And then, so we've basically disrupted 3 times, and then now 4 times because of the final trap hole. And this is the one final thing I think I should mention. We still have 3 random cards in our hand in a trap deck. That's right. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 disruptions off of 2 cards in a trap deck where most of the other cards you're going to be drawing are traps. Not bad. I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty good. Now, this combo itself, I said it's a perfectly normal random combo. It could be considered a bit extra, but at the same time, is it? It's not like your extra deck is tight on space, and there are plenty of packages you could decide to go for instead. Instead, you could go for Rika Queen, this one, or just go for like an F-Zero line if you have the ability and you're not locked yet. But this is one of another example I'm going to give soon. But Traptrix got kind of insane. And it's interesting because this feels like a combo deck. Like Altergeist, when you had Haunted Rock, you could sometimes make it a combo deck where it like ended on double Hextia Multi-Faker, and that was really cool. But this one just does that. That's its natural playstyle, not decided by drawing 1 card. This deck's just going to spam monsters out. But now that we got that out of the way, let's go into another one. Alright, for this next combo, I actually just wanted to draw a random hand. And more importantly, I wanted to make something that was a little more normal than what I said. Which, to be fair, nothing out of what I showed you is out of reach. Like, it's a totally normal thing to play some of these cards. Like, the old... God, I can't remember these names. They're miserable. But the one that can recruit 2 Trapples, Vesiculo, they've actually gotten so much better due to this support that, like, they're both playable. Like, you don't actually have to worry about them being dead ends. Because, first off, I was literally already playing those cards before I ever considered Jasmine or the Rika cards. So, like, it was just a natural implement. And it's not like your extra deck is insanely tight. There's plenty of room to experiment. But for this one, I just wanted to draw a random hand. So let's get into it. I will start off, we will normal summon one of these extenders, and we will make Sarah. Now, because I have Shade Brigandine, an insanely insane card, we'll go ahead and summon it, and that will summon out... I think I will summon out... Let's go for... Let's go for Dianea. I need to be more decisive. So let's go ahead and make the new rank for Citrus. We'll detach the Dianea. And we will search Vesiculo. And then Sarah will go ahead and set a trap hole. Let's go bottomless trap hole. Next, I'll go ahead and special the Vesiculo by sending away a trap hole. And now I will go ahead and activate Awakening Force, discarding one of those things to both send. It is going to be a weird one, but this is something I've been trying for a bit when I do the, what's it called? The Vernalizers. We'll send Goki Pole, and that will allow us to summon, Dianea. And when Dianea is special summoned, you can go ahead and set a trap hole from your graveyard, but it's banished during the end phase of the next turn. And then Goki Pole triggers to get us a new insect. And I guess we can search this. Next, we will go ahead and overlay into... I guess Rafflesia, because this is one of the interesting things. There's not much reason for me to extend further, because despite looking at this was actually a pretty terrible hand. Our hand was almost the exact same monster over and over and over again. But with this, we can safely end here. We have the DD Crow, we have the Rafflesia, we have 2 traps to work with Sarah. Like, look at this. Sarah summoning out a monster that is... The new Puddle is a disruption. This is a disruption to the graveyard. This is Rafflesia. And these are 2 traps. And even if they want to Feather Dust you, you just summon this out. And your back row's fine. So, for a bad hand, that's pretty insane. Not even going to lie. That's pretty insane for a hand that was ultimately kind of mediocre, especially with all the stuff I've been testing out with this support. But this is kind of the point I guess is important to come across is this is insane support. Like, this is nuts. I've been seeing it with Labyrinth as well. And this is just another example. Konami is really trying hard to get trap decks back to playable condition. After years of not being supported at all and power creeping back row removal more than actual back row, they basically hit a wall where they couldn't... Any of their back row experiments couldn't work because they didn't realize how far behind they were. But this Labyrinth are 2 examples of them going really hard to try to revitalize like back row strategies. Because the truth is, people say they hate them, but in reality, it's like it is the ultimate Yu-Gi-Oh player thing where when my opponent has a card, like people will just complain about anything. A lot of trap decks are actually very interesting, interactive, and really promote back and forth and skilled gameplay. It's just that people randomly decided that all trap decks are floodgate decks, despite the fact that most of the floodgate decks we've been dealing with for a while have actually been combo decks. So, if you want to have a problem with floodgates, that's fine, but floodgates are not exclusive to trap decks. They're not even exclusive to traps. Like, how many times have you been scythed and said, man, I hate skill drain? That's just not logic. But with all this support, we might see some, like, real trap decks pop up in the future. But, again, we have the Tier 0 problem right now, so it's very hard for them to move forward until after that Tier 0 deck is gone. But if you want a deck to pick up for the future, I don't remember when this comes out. But it's soon-ish, and this is really cool. But, yep, that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and remember, Master Flex will take your soul.